Good evening. I'm speaking with Anila Dias Bandaranaike today, who calls herself a statistician, but I think it quite does not capture the rich experience she's had over the years working at the central bank as well. Anila, very warm welcome to the program.
Thank you.
I like to ask people who've stayed with the institution for nearly a quarter century, what was it like when you joined, and what changes occurred, the most significant changes over the period of time, and 25 years?
Well, it was very interesting. When I joined soon after coming back, I was 7.5 years out of the country collecting various degrees and doing some postdoctoral research. And I had been in the US system for about 5.5 years. Yeah. So that when I came back and joined the public sector, it was quite an eye-opener. And in fact, I always tell people, I met my husband working together. And I said we were friends in adversity, because we came from a workaholic American system into the state sector in Sri Lanka, where the unofficial working, the people it was officially 8 to 4:15, but people would wander in up till about 9 o'clock in those days, not anymore. And then you had a 2-hour lunch break and 2 tea breaks.
So it was a good life.
And it was a good life. And we were shocked once when we were working. We had projects to finish, and we were there till 5 or 5:30. The security came to our office and said, could you please pack up and leave? We have to lock up. So it was interesting, but it went to a lot. Now there's, that kind of relaxation is long gone, because there's a lot of pressure and stress because there's so much work to be done. And when you see what changes took place, I think what I really loved about working in the central bank was that you were in the thick of economic change, policy change. Even though, even when you get to a very senior level, I think the impact you have on policy change is very limited, because the reality of the political economy. But you saw what was happening, you had access to all the information, and the philosophy also changed. When governors changed, when governments changed, there were changes that took place. And there were excellent officers to work with, and I really learned a lot, because I am a statistician by training and don't have any formal economics. So all the economics I have now picked up was on the job because of my colleagues.
Was there any reason you chose the public sector over the private?
Well, I think in those days I find, you want to change the world, you want to serve your country, you've got a free education, you want to give it back. So all those very altruistic motives were there. And I find when I talk to the next generation, my children, and then, somewhere along the line you find you can't change the world. And policy changes don't take place on rational thinking. It's often something else.
So, but you smile and you laugh about it. So it wasn't the case of growing disillusionment. It was adapting to change.
No, you have. I don't think I was very good at adapting, because I was always known for speaking my piece.
So how did you survive 25 years in the institution?
Well, it was a challenge, and the facts and figures. I mean, that there was a job of work to be done. There was a lot of interesting stuff with trying to improve the quality of statistics, which is my passion. Trying to improve the quality of information available, and also trying to push it into more evidence-based decision making, because as I said, and I think as we all know in this country, quite often decisions are not evidence-based. So it was an exciting challenge. And then you had other government agencies that you collaborated with, like the Department of Census and Statistics. I think there were a lot of very excellent people to work with there. So it was always interesting, there was always change, and you were in the thick of, as I said, economic change.
Statistically speaking, then, could you foresee the financial crisis that we're in, not globally, in terms of Sri Lanka, responding to the global crisis? Could one foresee in a central bank level that this was going to happen to the world and to the country?
You mean in the recent?
In the recent, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we could.
Or we're completely bushwhacked.
Yeah, no, in the sense that, I always think to myself, you have to be pragmatic. Crises come from different angles, and the one crisis will never replicate another, because the situation changes. But I think, as I always said, what goes up has to come down, whether it's tea prices or oil prices. And I think one has to be ready because there's so much volatility, especially in today's world where information interchange has grown exponentially. That I think one has to always be aware that somewhere around the corner there's going to be something you're not going to be quite ready for. But when you say the global crisis, I have problems with that word because actually when the global economy was growing really fast, that was also a crisis in itself because the huge demand coming from fast-growing countries that were again responding to consumer demand from the rest of the world was raising the prices of essential goods at an exponential rate. I mean, let's take the example of oil. Let's take the fact that when the oil prices went up, sugar prices went up, wheat prices, etc. So that was also a big crisis for countries like Sri Lanka that are import dependent. And then along came the financial crisis, which then has resulted in all these essential commodity prices crashing, which in a sense has a positive side for a country like Sri Lanka, especially when we are hopefully fairly soon.
I'm interested in, you dealt with numbers.
Yeah.
How does one communicate that? Is it, I mean, who did you communicate to is perhaps the better question. Was it only for the central bank and your colleagues or for the population at large? I asked this in the background also of news last year that Alan Greenspan himself admitted that he didn't quite understand what was going on. So, I mean, if a man of his stature can't understand and communicate what's going on, what in the 24, 25 years of what you did at the central bank, helped you communicate what you wanted to the broader population?
I think when you're somebody who all your life has been dealing with a number, I see pictures in numbers.
Okay, right.
I see when I see the statistics coming out. Behind those numbers, there's a story to tell.
Right.
But I also know that many people see pictures only in words. So one has to draw from those numbers and communicate what information is in those numbers in other people's language, not in our numeric language.
Isn't that where spin comes in?
Pardon?
Isn't that where spin and interpretation and...
Yes, that is.
Yeah.
And I think the one thing that you have to always be clear about is your own professional integrity. And the other thing is because along with that integrity comes credibility. And if you as a number crunching authority, there's really in Sri Lanka two key ones for economic statistics. That's the central bank and the Department of Census and Statistics, which is actually the National Statistical Agency. You really need to ensure that people believe what you're saying, and you can only ensure that if you yourself ensure that you cross-check your numbers, make sure they are consistent, and make sure that you're doing the best you can given the information available. And sometimes there's a paucity of information in certain areas,
so you make a guess,
and you need to use indirect estimation to come up with a full set of
and be open about that.
And be open.
Yeah.
And the one thing I used to always tell the people who worked with me in my department was, you never try to hide what you do not have access to, because that is also part of the credibility building. You say, okay, this is the information we have, it's based on this, there are limitations, this is the best that can be done.